Welcome to this deep dive where we take fascinating topics and really unpack them for you.
Hmm.
Today, we're exploring the world of reproductive health, both men and women.
Yeah, it's a big one. We'll be looking at how our bodies create gametes, sperm and eggs.
Right, and what impacts their health, their viability,
Hmm.
and also that really interesting link between sexual well-being and just, well, overall health.
Exactly. And we've gathered info from, well, all over scientific reviews, medical texts, research papers, health organizations.
The real mix.
Definitely. We know you, our listener, are likely curious about these fundamental processes. So our mission today,
Let's hear it.
to pull out the key insights about sexual health and fertility across our lives, provide some clarity, maybe even some surprising facts.
Okay, let's get into it then. And the logical place to start seems to be the absolute foundation, how we actually make those gametes, sperm and eggs.
Agreed. Let's start with ootogenesis, that's egg development in women. Yeah, pretty unique story.
Unique how?
Well, it kicks off even before birth. A female fetus, around 20 weeks gestation, has something like 6 to 7 million potential eggs, or oocytes.
Wow, 6 to 7 million.
Yeah, it's an incredible number. But here's the thing. By the time that baby is born, it's down to maybe 1 or 2 million.
That's a massive drop, even before life properly begins.
It is. It really highlights how precious that initial pool is, what we call the ovarian reserve. And it kind of underscores why egg health becomes more critical as women age.
Makes sense. So that number keeps falling.
It does. By puberty, it's decreased even more. And over a woman's entire reproductive life, only about, say, 450 of those will actually mature and be released.
Just 450 out of millions. So that ovarian reserve concept is key. It's this finite capacity the ovary has.
Precisely. And it's not just the number dropping, the quality of the remaining eggs also tends to decline with age. That's a major factor in female fertility.
Is that initial big drop-off before birth just random loss?
Well, the thinking is it's actually a kind of quality control. The body might be getting rid of oocytes that have potential defects right from the start.
Huh. Interesting. Like pre-screening. Okay, I also read something about these eggs being paused, like they're not fully developed right away.
That's right. They get arrested, sort of held in a specific stage of meiosis. That's the cell division process that halves chromosome numbers for fertilization. They're stuck in the diplotin stage.
And they just wait there.
They wait until a hormonal signal, specifically progesterone, tells them to wake up and resume the process.
So hormones are the trigger.
Yep. And maturation isn't just division. It involves a lot of messenger RNA and protein synthesis. The egg is basically gearing up, getting all the machinery ready in case fertilization happens.
Okay, so for women, finite supply starts early, quality control, pause development, a very specific process.
Very specific.
Now, let's contrast that with the male side, sperm development or spermatogenesis. It's quite different, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Chalk and cheese, really. Men start producing sperm at puberty, and then they just keep going continuously throughout their adult lives.
No finite reserve there.
Nope. And it happens inside the testes in these structures called the seminiferous tubules.
And there are special stem cells involved, right? Spermatogonial stem cells.
Exactly. They're amazing because they can do two things. Make more of themselves, so the supply doesn't run out, and also differentiate, starting the journey to become mature sperm or spermatozoa.
How long does that journey take from stem cell to mature sperm?
Takes about 30 to 40 days, roughly.
Okay, and hormones must be crucial here too.
Oh, definitely. You've got LH, luteinizing hormone, which tells specific cells in the testes, the Leydig cells, to make testosterone.
And testosterone is essential.
Absolutely essential. Then you have FSH, follicle-stimulating hormone, acting on another type of cell, the Sertoli cells, right there in the tubules. Testosterone and FSH work together to really drive sperm development.
Got it. I remember reading something quite unique about how these developing sperm cells are arranged that aren't as separate.
No, they're not. They stay connected by these little bridges, cytoplasmic bridges. It forms what's called a syncytium. Think of it like they're all holding hands as they develop.
Why? What's the benefit of that?
It's really clever. It allows them to share stuff. So if one developing sperm has, say, a Y chromosome, it's missing genes found only on the X chromosome.
Right.
But because they're connected, it can get the proteins made from the X chromosome genes from its neighbors. It means all the developing sperm benefit from the full genetic instruction manual, even though each one only carries half.
That's fascinating, a cooperative development process.
It really is. But it could also mean, if something harmful gets in, it might affect the whole group more easily.
A potential downside. Okay, so we have the basics. Finite eggs, continuous sperm. Now let's talk about what affects the health of these gametes. Age seems like the obvious big one.
It really is. For both sexes, though, in different ways. For women, like we touched on, that ovarian reserve diminishes. And crucially, the quality of the eggs goes down, especially after the mid-30s.
And that leads to.
Higher risk of miscarriage, lower birth rates, often because older eggs are more likely to have chromosomal abnormalities.
Right, quality is key. What about men? We often hear they can father children much later in life.
Well, yes, sperm production continues, but that doesn't mean sperm health stays perfect. Research shows that after around 35 or 40, there can be declines.
Declines in what specifically?
Things like sperm count, motility, that's how well they swim, and morphology, their shape, plus an increase in DNA fragmentation within the sperm.
And those changes actually matter.
They can, yes. They might impact how quickly conception happens, increase the time it takes to get pregnant, potentially raise miscarriage risk, and some studies even suggest links to the health of the offspring.
So the male biological clock, while different, is definitely a real thing.
It seems so. The quality can decline, even if the factory stays open, so to speak. It's interesting, isn't it, how the perception is often skewed towards female age being the only factor.
It really is. Okay, beyond age, what about lifestyle? Things we do every day.
Huge impact. Smoking, for example, is pretty bad news for male fertility. Strongly linked to lower sperm count, motility, and morphology. Increases infertility risk.
Okay, so smoking is out. What else? Environment?
Yeah, exposure to certain environmental contaminants, maybe through pollution or occupation, like some pesticides, those can negatively affect spermatogenesis too.
It makes sense. These are sensitive processes. I guess things like diet and weight probably matter too.
Absolutely. Things like, excessive alcohol, poor nutrition, lacking essential vitamins and antioxidants that can impact both sperm and egg health.
Hmm.
And maintaining a healthy weight is important too. Being significantly overweight or underweight can disrupt the hormonal balance needed for fertility.
Right, hormones again. We mentioned LH, FSH, testosterone. Are there others playing important roles?
Oh, yes. The whole system is run by this intricate hormonal conversation. It starts higher up in the brain. The hypothalamus releases GnRH impulses.
Gonadotropin-releasing hormone.
That's the one. That tells the pituitary gland to release LH and FSH, which then act on the gonads, the testes, or ovaries.
So it's a cascade.
A carefully timed cascade. And yes, testosterone is vital for men. Estrogen, often seen as the female hormone, actually plays complex roles in both sexes' reproductive health.
Really? Estrogen in men.
Yep. And even things like thyroid hormones and various growth factors can influence sperm production. It's a whole network.
A delicate network.
Yeah.
Which means medical conditions could disrupt it.
Definitely. In men, issues with the prostate or treatments for prostate cancer can impact sexual function and potentially fertility.
And internally.
Yeah.
Within the sperm production process itself.
Problems can arise there, too. If meiosis, that cell division, gets disturbed, or if the programmed cell death apoptosis of the early sperm cells goes wrong, it can stop production.
And for women, besides age,
Genetic factors can play a role. For instance, mutations in genes like BRCA1, known for cancer risk, can also affect ovarian reserve and lead to an earlier menopause.
wow. Okay, one more factor for men that seems basic but crucial. Temperature.
Ah, yes. Very important. The testes hang outside the main body cavity for a reason.
To keep cool.
Exactly. Elevated scrotal temperature is bad for sperm production. The scrotum helps regulate temperature, keeping it just slightly cooler than the core body temp, which is optimal.
So wear loose boxers. Is that actually true?
Well, the evidence is a bit mixed on tight versus loose underwear specifically, but the principle holds. Avoiding prolonged excessive heat exposure to the scrotum is generally considered a good idea for sperm health. Things like frequent hot tubs, saunas, maybe even laptops directly on the lap for long periods could potentially have an effect.
Good to know. Okay, we've covered gamete production, age, lifestyle, hormones, medical stuff, temperature. It's a lot.
It is. It shows how many things feed into reproductive health.
Let's pivot slightly now. We've talked biology. Let's talk about sexual health more broadly and how it connects to just feeling well overall.
Yes, this is such an important connection. Sexual health isn't just about making babies. The American Sexual Health Association defines it as the ability to embrace and enjoy our sexuality throughout our lives.
Enjoyment, satisfaction.
Right. And having access to good information, resources, feeling comfortable communicating about it.
And the research backs up its importance for general health.
Strongly. Study after study shows this link between positive sexual health and better overall physical and psychological well-being.
For everyone.
Seems so. All genders, different ages, including older adults, pregnant women, people in same-sex or different sex relationships. It's pretty universal.
What kind of benefits are we seeing in these studies?
Things like reduced levels of depression and anxiety, higher reported quality of life, greater life satisfaction. It really suggests that our sexuality is a core part of our overall health picture.
That definitely pushes back against the idea that sex is only for the young or only for procreation.
Exactly. And it challenges that misconception that a fulfilling sex life just fizzles out after, say, 50.
Which isn't necessarily true.
Not at all. Maintaining an active, pleasurable sex life is absolutely possible well into later life. Yes, bodies change with age, Lise. Men might experience erectile dysfunction. Women might have vaginal changes due to hormonal shifts.
But those changes don't have to mean the end of intimacy.
Not necessarily. Adaptations might be needed, maybe lubricants, maybe medication, maybe just different approaches to intimacy. But it doesn't automatically preclude a healthy sex life.
Communication sounds vital here.
Absolutely critical. Talking openly with a partner about needs, changes, concerns. That's key to maintaining intimacy through life stages.
And talking to doctors, too. It can feel awkward.
It can, but it shouldn't be taboo. We need to normalize conversations about sexual health with healthcare providers, just like we talk about blood pressure or cholesterol. It allows issues to be addressed, guidance to be given. It's part of overall healthcare.
This has been incredibly insightful. We've covered so much ground, from the cellular level right up to overall well-being.
We have.
So if we were to boil it down, what are the main takeaways for you, our listener?
Okay, first, grasp those fundamental differences. Finite eggs in women starting before birth versus continuous sperm production in men starting at puberty. Both, however, are affected by age, especially in terms of quality.
Right. Difference number one.
Second, recognize the sheer range of factors influencing fertility and sexual health. It's not just one thing. It's genetics, hormones, age, yes, but also lifestyle, environment, medical history. It's complex.
They are connected.
Very. And third, and maybe most importantly, embrace the idea that sexual health is deeply tied to overall well-being. Physical health, mental health, it's all linked. A positive view of sexual health is part of a positive view of health overall.
It really drives home how our biology, our choices, our environment, and our sense of well-being are all tangled together. Definitely gives you a lot to think about.
It should. And to leave you with something to chew on, here's a final thought.
Go on.
Given these biological realities, the continuous sperm production versus the finite egg reserve, how might our societal views or maybe our expectations around family planning, how might they evolve as we understand these differing biological clocks better? What are the bigger implications of really grasping the timelines for both sexes? How could that knowledge change things?